Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining me for today's CoolCare Masterclass, looking at managing holidays and absences today. As I'm sure you're all aware, CoolCare is here to help make operating your care home easier, more efficient, and more profitable. Hopefully, look at the easier and more efficient side of things with what we're looking at this afternoon. So, using Zoom today, you can ask us questions with the Q&A option you should be able to find on your Zoom window. All you can do is click on that and ask a question in there, and a member of our team will be on hand to answer any questions you've got, or I might answer it myself if it's relevant to what we're looking at the time. So any questions you think of as we're going through, feel free to ask away, whatever it might be. And we'll have some time at the end as well once we've finished the kind of webinar masterclass. We'll have a few minutes at the end to be able to answer any further questions people might have on anything you think of what we've seen. So, as of what we're looking at today, is looking at, kind of looking at calendar and our rota, looking at staff availability to do with holidays and absences specifically, how you can add those onto the system, how they can affect your rota in different ways, and how you can then use that rota to help find cover for those shifts or amend it as we might need to as things change. And you'll keep things updated with any changes to your staffing as they happen with the holidays absences that you add on there and how it all feeds into one another from that. So without further ado, I will swap over to my demo system and we can get started. Just bear with me one moment as I do so. There we are. Right. So to start with, we're going to be focusing, well, from the beginning, we're going to be going with adding in holidays and absences onto CoolCare. So if staff members are off for any other reason, you would add them on as either holidays if they were planned on CoolCare, or absences if they were unplanned as well on the system, which all manage via the calendar section underneath your staff on there. So we click on that, takes us to our calendar page here. Now, when I open up your calendar, it will show you your current calendar month and anything going on within that right now. We've got a few things going on for April at the moment. But you can change that view. You can see the top left corner. I can go back previous months if I need to check what's happened previously on my calendar. Or I can plan ahead and look at future months on there as well with the arrows at the top left corner. And you can plan as far ahead as you would like to planning stuff on there. As well as that, you can change the view of the rota to look at the calendar to check for a full month down to a 2-week view. You want to narrow things down, even down to a single week or a single day. If you've got a lot going on, you can easily narrow it down and focus on just what you need to. And you can even do that using these little tick boxes on the left-hand side for holidays, absences, and training, to just view what you need to. Obviously, on mine, only holidays there, so if I get rid of that, nothing else to see. But the idea is with the calendar, you put what you need to on here when your staff members are away, and that will then feed through everywhere else. So, for example, first thing we might want to do is a holiday. So obviously, if staff member wants to request some time off as a holiday, you can add it onto the calendar here to do it for them. So I'm going to say one of my staff members wants a couple of days off next week, and I'm going to pop it in here for them. You click on the day you want the holiday to start from. So I'm going to start mine from next Monday, the 6th. And then we pop in as a holiday request. Oh, excuse me. So to add in the holiday request onto the calendar here, the main thing you'll need is to say which staff member it's for at the top to start with. Hit allocate to staff, which you can choose from obviously all these staff members in the home. We'll go over Nora here, for example. You can then say when the holiday is. If it's just a single day, you can leave those dates as is. It's just the one day, that's fine. But if it is multiple days, you will need to update the end date, the second one here. So I'm going to say actually they're going to have 2 days off, the Monday and the Tuesday. And when you update those dates on the left-hand side, you'll see them appear here under each day individually on the right-hand side. Each day may have some hours against it. That'll be based on how your rota is set up. You might see the hours come across from the rota automatically, or depending on how it's done, you might need to add in the hours yourself on there. And you can update that just by either typing in the box or using the little arrow icon to change the number automatically. So you can create that request in there to say how many hours they're using, which you can see on the left-hand side there against their contracted hours as well. And if I save that as a request, that gets popped on to the calendar there. Now, Important to mention at this point as well that staff members can do that first step themselves. If they have access to the staff portal, they can see how much holiday they have available, put in a request for whatever days they want off, and it would then show on here as a request for you to deal with. The first place you'd likely see that request as well, if you've added it in on here or as for all the staff members done it through the portal, is actually on your dashboard. If you have this widget here, the calendar actions required, that will tell you about anything new on your calendar that you would need to deal with. In this case, a holiday request that we need to either authorize or decline. You can see it on there, see the staff members and their details on there. And if you click on the widgets on their name, it takes you straight to your calendar. You can see there, it's even flashing at me, the one that I need to deal with from that. So you can easily get to the calendar request from the dashboard. From there, all you do is double check the hours if it's come from the staff portal, and then you can either authorize or decline those days off if they can have them or not. You can do that, clicking the little circle icons there to just do them individually. Authorized, yes, they can. Declined, no, they can't. Or you can even click at the top where it says authorized, declined, requested to do them all in one go. So, if someone's put in a long request, you can just authorize it all in one go or decline it all in one go if you need to as well. You can see how that's going to affect their holiday entitlements on the left-hand side there, what that's going to go down to with the requested hours. And once that is authorized, if I then save it, there we are, that can then remove that staff member from the rota, which will pop up when you authorize it on there. It tells you, do you want to remove the staff member for these authorized holidays, take them off the rota, those 2 days, the 6th and the 7th. I can say yes to that, which will remove them from the rota shifts, as we'll see briefly after this. And under here, you can see now it's marked as green, underlined there to say that holiday has been authorized on there. If you do decline it, you can see the other example there, it would be red and it wouldn't affect anything else. It would just be to say it's been declined. So that's how you would handle your holidays on there. As I say, staff members can do them themselves through the staff portal, or you can do them for them on here, just adding them onto the calendar. And as I say, we'll see how it affects our rota in a moment. Well, that's not the only thing you can do on here. You can also add in absences. So if the staff member's off for any reason that isn't a holiday, you would add it in as an absence on the calendar instead. If they've called in sick, if there's any kind of leave or anything that isn't a holiday, essentially, like I say, you would pop it in as an absence. Starting the same way, you just click on the dates you want to add it in for. We're going to go to today's dates. And then the pick option there, absence. Select that. And then we can fill out our details. Similar to the holiday, you first have to choose which staff member it's for, which we can see on here. We'll go with Martin. You can then say when the absence is. If it's just, again, like the dates there you've got there, if it's just a single day, leave it as is. If it's multiple days, you can add them all on there. We're just going to go with today on that. And with absences, you do have an additional bit there to actually pop in the time as well. So if they're just absent for part of the day, you can say that they're just absent for part of their shift by popping in the times on there to identify it. We're going to say they're going to be off all of today. You also need to choose a reason for the absence, why that person is absent today. If I click the button there, select reason, you'll get a drop-down list of different reasons why that person may be absent. And this list is actually a lookup in CoolCare, so you can customize this. So if you're looking at your absence, you might see different options on yours compared to mine in here. And if something isn't covered by the list of reasons you've got in there, you always have the option to add in a custom reason, where there'll be a little text box there to just type it in yourself if it's something completely unique and out of the ordinary. In my case here, I'm actually going to say this person's called in sick, so I'm going to put it in as short-term sickness, say they can't work their shift today. And like the holiday, you can see the hours will appear, well, should appear on the right-hand side, depending on how the rotor is set up. Again, if they don't, like with this one here, you could just put in the hours manually. So I'm going to say this is 12 hours absence for the 12-hour shift. By default, they will start off unauthorized, which just means, investigating the absence, finding out what's going on with it before we make a decision. Once we then have confirmed everything, you want to authorize the absence in CoolCare, and that will then, like the holiday, that will take them off the rota and let the rest of the system know what's going on with that. Yeah, make sure you do authorize them in the end. While the absence is unauthorized, just again to quickly show you, it will pop up on the dashboard similar to a holiday request, or at least it should do. Mine is not showing that for today for some reason. but it would appear on the absence on the dashboard widget as an absence in pink on there to show that the absence needs authorizing in there, which, as I say, is just to confirm that it is the absence is definitely happening. With absence as well, you do have a couple additional options, these extra tick boxes on there, as you can see. You can mark the absence as continuing, which is essentially making it open-ended. If someone's called in sick and we don't know when they're going to be better to return to work, we can mark it as a continuing absence, and that just means day by day, the absence will keep updating itself to be a day longer. So rather than you having to come in each day and change it every time, it will just update itself for you to be a day longer for as long as you need to on there. And once the staff member is better and does return to work, you can untick that to stop it from updating any further. As well as that, couple extra tick boxes specifically. If they are on sick, you can mark it as self-certified on there, or if they've got doctor's note, which can have its own expiry in there as well. And of course, on both the holidays and the absences, you've got this extra notes box down the bottom just for any additional information you might have relating to it. So in this case, we've marked the absence as authorized, and when we then save it, this similar box appears, similar to the holiday. It will ask you, do you want to remove the person from the rota since they are absent today? Again, we can just click yes to that, and that will take them off their shift. Yeah. Adding those things onto the calendar here will then let the rest of the system know. It's just a simple matter of popping it on the calendar in the first instance. And as I said before, with the holidays specifically, the staff members can add them in themselves, and then it would just be up to you to authorize them. Remember, once you authorize the absence or the holiday, then it can remove them from the rota from there. So now that we've done all that, we can actually see how it does affect our rota. So if I go to my rota under the staff section there, load up my live rota and have a look at the changes that have come from it. So for the holiday we put in for Monday and Tuesday, you can see them in there. And now where Nora was originally assigned to it from a shift pattern, now we've got 2 unassigned shifts because of a holiday in there. And if I click on that, you can even see, if I scroll down on the staff list to choose who's available, that Nora there is marked with a holiday authorized as well. That's, you can see those unassigned from there. As for the absence, that was on today's shift, which Martin was actually assigned to this one down here. Which, if I click on it, you can see there the absence next to his name on that side. So that's to say how they remove them from the shift. It will just take them off it, be unassigned, and you can then see you've got a gap in the rota that will need filling in. A quick note on those, just to mention, if I go on the holiday again, even though the staff member may be marked as their holiday authorized or an absence, they can still be put on the shift if you would need to. So if the staff member, needs to come in on an emergency to cover a shift, even though they're on a holiday, you can still assign them to the shift if you would want to. Just to be aware. But in this case, I'm not going to do that. We're instead going to find cover a different way, which we can do just by clicking on the shift. And if we need to find cover quite short notice, like with this night shift for this evening, you have the option to message the staff from your rota. So you can send a text message asking if someone's available to cover this shift as long as they have a mobile number on the staff record, just by clicking the button on the right-hand side. Doing that, give me 1 second. Excuse me. Doing that, clicking that button will then send them a text message, and you can see on here it says the staff has not responded. I've only just sent it, they've not had a chance to respond to it yet. So your staff member will then receive a text message from CoolCare, giving them the details of the shift. This is actually on a phone here, I'm not making this, but just to read it out, it tells them they've been requested to cover a shift, giving them all the details of that shift. So in my case, it's for Sam's home as a care assistant night for today, 7 p.m. till 7 a.m. tomorrow. So it tells them all the details of the shift they need to know. And then in that message as well, there's a little link to open up a web page on the mobile. And from there, they can respond to the request, yes or no, if they're able to cover it. So essentially, just 2 big buttons on there, red or green, yes or no, if they can cover it. If I say, yes, he can on this one, doing that on my mobile here, will then feed back to CoolCare. So just looking at CoolCare at a glance here on the rota, nothing's changed automatically. There's no notification or anything to let me know that someone has responded to that shift. That's why you want to use this button in the top right corner that says cover requests. If you click that, it'll bring up this box on the left-hand side. And you can see here if people have responded to them or not. So for the one for tonight, you can see, tell me again, the group, care nights, the position, care isn't nights. And where it says to one person and they've said yes, it says one can cover. If they'd have said no, then it would say one unavailable. If they haven't responded yet and we're still waiting for a response, it would say one awaiting. Actually, there's a one underneath it. And as well as that, to even find the shift and be able to find it on there, you can even click the little button there, go to shift. And it will actually highlight the shift in yellow to say that's the one you sent a message for, that's the one we want to look at. So if I then click on that from there, open up the shift, we can see in here where before it had the little question mark to say they've not responded, it's now got a little green tick to say yes, they can cover that shift, they're available to do it. If it had said no, it would have a red cross there instead to say no, they can't do it on that. And next to it, it will have the actual date and time when they've responded as well. So you can see there, in this case, it just responded just now. The big thing with the shift request when you're sending out the messages from the rota is it's not going to put them on the shift automatically. Once people respond to your message, you then have to choose who you want to do the shift based on the responses you've been given. So in this case, he said yes. We're going to put him on the shift then in that case just by clicking on him from here, which will assign him into that shift for tonight. So that's my cover sorted for this evening. That can even send the staff member another text message to let them know with this little bit turned on the top. Text staff when assigned to shift, which does exactly as it says. It will send the staff member a text message when you assign them to a shift on the rota. And as for the cover request, if I was to reload that night shift disappears from there because now it's being covered. We don't need to worry about it any further. So that's your idea with that. You just send your messages from there and the staff members can then let them know in their own time if they're available or not. The other way the staff could actually put in those requests is through the staff portal. Essentially, if I load mine up quickly, I should be able to show you. Just 1 moment. The staff portal for everyone anywhere, essentially a separate system the staff members that can access on their phones or on the tablets, whatever they use to get on the internet, or on a computer, of course, to be able to log in, see their own details, and interact with CoolCare in a couple of ways. Oh, I'd like to register for this one quickly. Luckily, I can show you how to do that. So if you have a new staff member that needs registering on the portal, you can go onto their staff record and find it in their employment details. They'll have a registration code. Let's reset it for this one in this case. And they can then register for the portal with the link that you can give them. So let's pop in the code there, give them their username, and they can then create their own password. Let's get logged in with those details now that we know they're correct. There we are. Right. And just to show you on the portal, so for the staff members to put in requests for shifts on the rota, they would go to the menu, and you've got there the option for available shifts, where they would be able to see, if I go to the rota, what shifts they're available to do. This could also show you actually any messages that have come that you send them, any shifts you sent out text messages for can show up in there as home requested, like that one for Sunday, which is that one there. But if we check for the Monday and Tuesday, you can see there are shifts available from those. These care assistant shifts in here. And if the staff member puts a request for it, we'll do that one on them. This person's working both those days actually, so bad example on there. With that, but if they put in a request for another shift, let's go with the one just on the 8th instead. We can put a request for that, and that will show up on the portal there. Again, that's actually a bad example. That's also still working that day. But essentially, you then have that little exclamation mark next to their name there to show that they're available for that shift. So where the message staff button would normally be, there'll be an exclamation mark instead to say they're available to cover that shift instead. And that's how I say the staff must be able to put those requests from the portal on there. Just a more proactive version of the messaging, your staff can instead see the shifts themselves and request what they want to do. That's but there's also the option that say staff might be able to do the shift, but they might need to change things about it. They might need to be, do only half the shift. They can do just half the day, or they might need to cover the, start finishing out a little bit later, something like that. Essentially, if you need to update those shifts, you can do as well. So let's say for one of these for Monday, that the staff member, someone said they can do it, but they can't quite do 7 while 7. They might have to do 8 while 8 instead, something like that. Start and finish an hour later just to be able to cover it properly. All you would need to do is first delete that original shift, which you can do by clicking on it here. And you can see the red button in the top corner, delete shift on there. I click that. We can then remove it from the rota. But again, it doesn't affect anything in the long term. It's just this single occurrence we're deleting. And from there, we can then click back into that little space that's been created from it and add in a brand new shift. It can either be one of your regular shift times you've got set up in the background, or it can be an ad hoc shift if it's something out of the ordinary. So I can pop it in, like I say, just might be a staff member wanting to start and finish an hour later in order to cover that shift properly. So we'll pop it as 8 while 8, add that shift in there. And from that, works like any other shift, you can click into it and say who's available for it, just by choosing a staff member on there. So yeah, you could easily update the rota shifts to accommodate, changes to your staffing if they need to cover certain stuff differently than normal. If you do like a split shift, you do it the similar way. You can delete that original one, and I can pop in the the morning on there, and then pop in the afternoon underneath in some extra space I've got on my rota as well to cover it in there. Still covering the same amount, same time, just with more shifts on there on that. So the rota can handle kind of anything you throw at it, really. It's just a matter of updating the shifts that are already there or amending the staff members assigned to them. All that kind of stuff can be done on the live rota. And it all, affects, small changes on there rather than upsetting anything in the long run. But yeah, that's the idea. The calendar, the rota, the messaging, the portal all feeds into one another. So, a staff member originally puts in a request on the staff portal for a holiday. That goes through to your calendar on there. From the calendar, you can then authorize that holiday, which will take them off the rota. From the rota, you can then find other staff members that can cover that shift with the staff messaging from there. So it all keeps things moving along, keeps things feeding in to one another. And that's kind of the idea with it and everything to show for this masterclass. Hopefully that's been useful for everyone. Just before we wrap up though, a couple additional things to mention. I'll just go back to my slides. There we are. So first thing to mention, if you're interested in any additional training on CoolCare for whatever you do on the system, you may be have some training available. Every company will have some training available free of charge as part of their CoolCare subscription, which has now actually renewed from the 1st of April. So everyone should have some available. If you're interested in getting a training session booked in, half an hour or 60 minutes, we can do together. You can contact us at a training team, email us, or phone up a team to get something sorted out. Whatever you want to know on CoolCare, we can do a training session for you for that. If you need any additional help with CoolCare, of course, you can get in touch with our support team for any assistance using the system. You can give them a call, email them, or use the live chat available on CoolCare as well. And they'll be available to help you out with any questions you've got or anything you need. Or for any queries regarding your actual CoolCare account subscription, you can contact our customer success team as well. Then all left to say for today is thank you for joining. And I hope to see you again in 2 weeks' time for our next webinar, which will be looking at recruitment and retention for staff on there. So thank you for joining. If anyone does have any questions, feel free to stick around and use the Q&A option on Zoom. We'll be leaving this Zoom or leave the webinar open until past. So anyone got any questions, feel free to ask them. Now's your time. Otherwise, if not, thank you all for joining, and I hope to see you again next time.